Hello, and welcome to Virtual Investor Conferences. My name is Cecilia, and on behalf of OTC Markets, we're very pleased you've joined us for our next live presentation from IsoEnergy. Please note, you can submit questions in the box to the left of the slides. You can also view company's availability for one-on-one meetings through the Schedule Meetings tab found on the conference platform. At this point, I'm very pleased to welcome Tim Gabruch, President, CEO, and Director of IsoEnergy, which trades on the OTCQX Best Market under the symbol ISENF and on the TSXV under the symbol ISO. Welcome, Tim.
Cecilia, thanks very much for the warm welcome, and yeah, we appreciate OTC's invitation to present today. So I'll just jump right into it. Appreciate everybody that's taking part in the call, and happy to give an update on IsoEnergy and what we're up to at the moment. So just very quickly start rolling through the slides. Disclaimer just on forward-looking statements. Please be aware of that. And really, just for those that are new to the story, I won't spend too much time on this, but really the background of IsoEnergy is we were formed back in 2016. We were an offshoot from a company, if you're familiar with the uranium space, you're probably very familiar with NextGen Energy. At that time, they spun out 5 excellent Eastern Athabasca properties into the company. It was really a difficult time in the market, so it was an interesting time to create a new company, but a perfect time to do it if you had the wherewithal. And I just put this one picture of the uranium market price on the right hand side there, which is just illustrative of where we were formed, really at the very low end of this market cycle, this 10 to 12 year market cycle that's kind of plagued the uranium space. But it was a great time to do it because not only did NextGen have the properties to put in, but we had a very strong team, both technically and commercially, that had great insights into the financial markets. And it really created an opportunity to go and pick up a lot of properties at a time in the market that there was a lot of people exiting the space. So if you had commitment to the space, which NextGen and ISO do, it was a perfect time to form the company. Just moving ahead, I mean, really, we started with the 5 properties. Today, we have a very extensive Athabasca Basin portfolio, those original properties, but also we're now over 20 high-quality exploration properties in the basin. Today, our flagship asset is the Larocque East property, which is home to the Hurricane Zone deposit, which has become one of the great new high-grade uranium deposits anywhere in the world. So we have almost 50 million pounds at really it is the world's highest grade indicated uranium resource at 34.5% average grade. So I'll just maybe speak more about Hurricane and then get into what else we're doing at ISO. The Larocque East property was purchased. It was not part of the original spin out. It was bought in May of 2018. Just very shortly after that, as we were finishing a drill program, we put one hole in at July of 2018 and hit some excellent mineralization. We then followed up with 6 drill programs, which have created what we now have in the Hurricane Zone. Just incredible results, indicative of some of the best results that have been seen in the basin, including some holes up to 70+% for several meters. So really incredible high-grade uranium in what is one of the best jurisdictions on the planet. So Hurricane, we've come out with a resource last year. It is an indicated resource of 48.6 million pounds at that 34.5%. Almost 44 million pounds of that, though, is over 52%. So very high grade. We have 2.6 million of inferred at just over 2%, and really just become an incredible deposit. You see the plan view on the left-hand part of the screen. The dark orange is indicative of the high-grade zone that makes up the majority of the deposit. And it is, and I'll talk more about this, but it is also up against a property border. You can see that Larocque East printing along that dark line to the east or to the west, and that is another property that we're bordering onto. Just a little bit more insight into the deposit itself. Here's a cross section of that high grade zone. If you just take that little cross section and lay it out flat, you see on the right hand side, it really is a very thin pancake like deposit of uranium, high grade, sitting in the unconsolidated sandstone right on top of the graphitic basement rock. So it's laying right on top of that, very similar to other deposits in the basin, a Phoenix or a Cigar Lake, very, very comparable in the type of deposit that it is. Of course, with that comes a deposit like this comes a lot of advantages, a lot of strategic advantages. The high grade mineralization, of course, is first and foremost. It's again 48.6 million pounds at 34.5% average grades. It's relatively shallow. You'll see a diagram at the bottom, kind of gives you an indication of where Hurricane sits in comparison to some of its counterparts in the basin over time. So, shallower than Cigar Lake, MacArthur, a little bit shallower than Phoenix, that Denison's progressing. So, no limitations on the depth in this area. It's only 325 meters. It's also, we talk a lot about, and you hear people talk about the Eastern Athabasca Basin. The benefits of that really is the area of the basin that's been developed the most over the years. It's home to Key Lake and Rabbit Lake and MacArthur and Cigar. And so over time, there's been a lot of development of roads, power infrastructure. And so we're right in the heart of that. We're only 40 kilometers also from Orano's McLean Lake Mill, which is also very close to Points North, which is really a supply outpost in northern Saskatchewan, in the northeast corner. So a lot of benefits from that. There's no water cover at surface, so anyone listening that's been to this part of the world knows that it's half water. And so if you find a deposit like this that isn't covered by water at the surface, it's just one added benefit and something that you don't have to manage when you go further down the development road. A lot of innovation going on in the basin as well at the moment. This deposit at 50 million pounds, it's a great size of deposit. It's not as big as a MacArthur or Cigar, the 300 million pounds, 100 million pounds, or a NextGen's Rook 1 project. But at this size and this grade, it's obviously very economic. And what's been done over the last number of years is a lot of work to see what type of innovative extraction methods can be applied to a relatively smaller deposit in the basin. So you see Denison working on in situ recovery. There's been a lot of work done on something called Sabre by Orano, which is a from surface jet boring type of technology. So these technologies have been worked on, and it's something that we're investigating to see what type of approach would be the best way to extract Hurricane. I mentioned that there's a border that it lies on that you can see on the top slide there, the top picture. On the left-hand part of the ore body, the highest grade part of it is right on the border with a project called Dawn Lake. That's a Cameco-Orano joint venture. There's actually a lot of exploration work ongoing at the moment to see by that joint venture what's on the other side. We don't aren't privy to any information from that, but there is a lot of work going on. So that'll be an interesting piece to watch as time goes on. And then maybe the greatest benefit or strategic advantage we have is really the jurisdiction. Saskatchewan's always been a highly sought after and very good place to have a uranium deposit and to supply uranium from to power companies, utilities all over the world. Today, I'd say that advantage has grown almost exponentially with challenges on the supply side from issues in Russia, Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan. A lot of material coming from that part of the world that has encountered a lot of challenges, especially post the Russian war on Ukraine. Current next steps, there's a little box down there just to talk a little bit about Hurricane and where we are. So we have been doing a lot of work internally, high level concept studies, as I mentioned, about looking at these innovative methods of mining, evaluating what those methods are, the economics around them, which would be the best to further study. A lot of work coming out of that initial work to kind of drill down and advance even beyond those concept studies to, following up with technical work to determine really which method would be the of the greatest benefit to pursue for a hurricane. So that work is ongoing, and we'll continue to do some of that with a view to moving towards a PEA, in the not too distant future. That's really hurricane. Again, that's the core value in IsoEnergy today. But we have this great, incredible, high quality portfolio of projects also in the Athabasca Basin. And as you can imagine, as we focused on hurricane over the last number of years, it's only in the last year or so that we've really been able to turn our attention to many of these other projects that have been sitting there a little bit idle as we've moved to a resource on hurricane. So we've been doing a lot of exploration the last couple of years. This past winter, over 6,000 meters of drilling on the Rock East, and our Hawk project that you can see here on the map is down to the southwest of La Rock. Also, a lot of ground geophysical surveying, La Rock, Hawk, and our Geiger projects in the winter to further advance those and get additional areas and target different areas for drilling. That progressed really, that winter work, right into the summer. There was a very short break between the winter and the summer season. We're right now in the midst of a program that's probably going to see us do right around 6,000 meters of drilling. We're doing a little bit on hurricane to explore a couple of ideas we have around the hurricane deposit. We're also doing some other work on the Rock East, the same property that hurricane's on, but more to the northeast of that property on what we call the Kernahan Trend. We're also drilling this summer on Hawk and our Ranger project for the first time. We're doing a lot of geophysical work to prepare ourselves on those projects and others for future programs. We're deploying a very unique, a new technology for us called ANT, Ambient Noise Tomography. We're doing some surveying there. I'll talk a little bit more about it in another slide. But also doing ground geophysical surveying on a number of projects, also some airborne, and all of this has, we've been advancing the program through the summer on schedule. We're still drilling today, and we're integrating a lot of this new geophysical data on the fly, whether it's ANT or some of the VTEM and gravity we've done with our drilling results to vector into those areas that are of greatest interest. With respect to hurricane and the Rock, so on hurricane, we did take this new ANT survey technology and deploy it right over hurricane. So it's really using these surface sensors to measure naturally occurring environmental seismic vibrations in the ground, and really the value here is to learn more about what's deep and at the unconformity. Prior to doing the drilling, we're getting a lot of good data. Part of it is learning how to interpret that, and so that's a process we're going through. But it's been very interesting so far. We're also doing a little bit of drilling, like I said, at hurricane, and we also put in 2 holes at the Kernahan Trend, also on the Rock East project. Our Hawk project is another one that we're very interested to advance. We've done a lot of work on it over the last couple of years, geophysically, a little bit of drilling. We did a 36 line kilometer fixed loop electromagnetic geophysical surveying over some of the key drill targets. And we did an inversion of some historic ZTEM data as well that's helping us develop some new targets. So putting in holes there this summer, probably around 2,500 meters. We're still working there and following up targets from recent drilling. So just a lot of prospectivity there. And again, this is a project that we're very excited about and we'll continue to do work on. Ranger is the other one that we hadn't done any drilling yet, but we've gone into this project this summer. 4 holes right around 1,600 meters. It's quite shallow to the unconformity, 250 to 200, or I should say 300 meters. And so really just with a primary objective to test for mineralization at the unconformity. So that's new to us, and so work is ongoing, and evaluation of those results is being looked at right now. that's a brief overview of the summer program, and some of the drilling we're doing. Just maybe to go into a little bit more of the market and the corporate piece. It's great to be involved, frankly, on a conference like this that looks at climate change, clean energy, and that nuclear and uranium is actually part of that story. Which as many of you that may have followed the story for some time know, it wasn't that long ago that uranium wouldn't be included, but it's now obviously becoming a much bigger part of this narrative around climate change and nuclear's role in helping fight against climate change and provide clean energy. So it's really incredible what's been happening. You see a lot of reversals on the nuclear shutdown front. We've seen it in California, Michigan, Germany, just in the last couple of weeks. Quebec, the Gentilly plant in Quebec, which was shut down about 10 years ago. Very unfortunate when it did. I used to go to that plant and sell uranium back in the day. It was sad to see a great plant closed, and now it sounds like they're rethinking whether they could reopen it again, and which would be a great story for nuclear in Canada and globally. So just becoming a bigger part of even the EU, including nuclear as part of the EU taxonomy rulebook is great. All of this, of course, comes at the end of a 10-year down cycle where no development had happened on the supply side. Supplies and inventories had been eaten away as utilities still ran their plants, but there wasn't any excitement around growth in the industry. And now we're seeing the impact of that with the supply demand fundamentals, showing a big need for uranium over time. We're certainly the geopolitical shift that's underway. With everything I mentioned, Russia, the invasion of Ukraine, everything that's happening there, that it's creating a long-term impact in the market. There's still some Russian material coming to the market, but a lot of sanctions in place, potential for more sanctions, especially in the U.S. to come as a result of that. And you're already seeing quite a bifurcation of the uranium market, where certainly Russian material is lessening to the west. Kazakhstan material is having a harder time getting to the west, and probably bigger demands from China and countries like India that may draw on those supplies that are having a harder time coming to the Western market. So that's causing obviously a big shift in thinking around the supply that's needed in the future and where that's going to come from. And certainly, Western utilities are looking to countries like Canada and the U.S., Australia, stable countries, stable jurisdictions, and of course that's very beneficial for IsoEnergy and the hurricane story, given the jurisdiction we're in. Niger, just recently, the coup there has created additional supply uncertainty from Africa. So just I won't get too much further into this, but just a lot of countries and jurisdictions strengthening their commitment to nuclear. You're seeing it in the news every day, and again, those fundamentals. There's over 400 operating reactors in 32 countries, 60 plus under construction right now, and there's 2.3 billion pounds of uncovered requirements through 2040, and £500 million uncovered through just 2030, which in the nuclear scale and the time frame that things operate within nuclear is just around the corner. So just a lot of changes going on, and a lot of positive signposts for the uranium supply situation, the uranium market to change and to continue to look better over time. It's just a quick snapshot of the capital structure at IsoEnergy. Obviously, the market has been doing a fair bit better over the last couple of weeks. We've seen some pretty steady increases in the spot price of uranium, getting close to that $60 mark, and looks like as we get into the fall, it looks like there's a lot of potential for utilities and supply or demand to come to the market. We also, as far as ISO is concerned, we're in good shape. We've got about $9.4 million in cash in the bank right now. We've got certainly enough to keep us well through the year and doing what we want to do and into next year. But of course, we're always watching when the right time to to look for funding, or we also have some marketable securities, other companies that we own some shares of, and those are other options for us as far as raising funds. As far as the management team, there's myself. We've got a great CFO that we added well over a year ago now from Toronto. Lots of uranium experience, but also just mining in general. We had a new VP of exploration earlier this year, Daryl Clark, comes with an enormous amount of experience. Daryl and I worked together at Cameco for a number of years. He was VP of exploration there, has done a lot of things, operating production centers in Kazakhstan. He's done oil and gas at Suncor's Fort Hills project. Just brings a great perspective, not only on the exploration side, but as we look at moving and advancing Hurricane, he's got a lot of development and operational experience as well, which is terrific. And so he adds to a great team with a lot of experience. Dave Thomas and someone else, just a technical advisor we've had for some time, but Dave comes with decades and decades of uranium experience, one of the most really knowledgeable folks in the entire industry. We're still, well supported by NextGen. NextGen owns right around 50% of us still. Lee Currier is our chairman. Many of you know him as the CEO of NextGen. We've got a few other directors, Trevor, Richard, and Chris, that also have ties to NextGen, which is great at our stage of development, brings a lot of experience. And another gentleman, Peter Natupsky, who's a director with us now. We added him this year and has been a great addition. Works at Agnico Eagle, a lot of corporate development experience and former investment banking, so provides a lot of great advice from that side of things. That's really it. I've got a few minutes left here, but as far as highlights, again, the resource is at Hurricane is incredible. That's obviously a huge highlight. Almost 50 million pounds at over 30% average grade. I can't mention jurisdiction enough. In the past, like I said, it's always been very positive to be in Saskatchewan. Today, it's become something even greater. To be in a jurisdiction like Saskatchewan that's very supportive of mining and uranium mining, ranked number 1 in Canada and 2 globally as a mining jurisdiction, and just geopolitically, the stability it provides, and not only just as an explorer, developer, and potential operator, but when you're looking to sell your product to utilities, that stability coming from a jurisdiction like Saskatchewan is very important. Our strategy is really quite simple. We will continue to advance Hurricane at a pragmatic schedule. We'll progress these exploration projects that we have, given their quality, and we'll also continue to look and actively pursue growth opportunities wherever it might make sense. It's a good time in nuclear and uranium sector, and we're very supportive and big believers of it in the long term. We have a great team, geologically, financially, from a governance perspective, and again, a lot of support from NextGen, which is great, not only just financially, but strategically. Everything we do, we can lean on them for support when and if we need it, and that's a huge advantage for us. That is really it. If anyone has questions, you can always reach out. I think there is some slots for one-on-one meetings if anyone's interested. Maybe now I'll just go to the side here and see what the questions look like. We have one. When do you expect results of the summer drill program? We're probably drilling for another good month or so. So potentially we'll have some initial results. I would say in the next 6 weeks ish. That'll be prior to any formal assays coming back. Those tend to take a little longer. It's hard to predict sometimes, but within the next couple of months we'll have some results from the drill program. Are you able to access any national or provincial programs to support your projects? There is a lot of support, especially in Saskatchewan. There is, we're part of the critical mineral strategy that the Saskatchewan government has put out. Uranium is on that. That obviously there's tax incentives. There's all sorts of things on that side. We're able to the flow through funding, the tax benefits of raising flow through dollars is a good advantage for any company exploring in Canada. Saskatchewan actually has some additional benefits in that on that piece that make it even more attractive to Saskatchewan. So there are, we feel like we're very well supported by Saskatchewan and in Canada in general. So there are definitely some benefits we can draw on. Given the close proximity of both Cameco and Orano to hurricane, do you see yourselves developing the project? Like, things can change anytime, and we're, obviously we don't know what's been found on the other side or what the plan is there. What we can do is really just direct our own future. So, we'll certainly be excited and interested to see what the results are on the other side, or if there's any, the history of the basin, you might know is full of a lot of partnerships, joint ventures, Cameco and Orano developing mines together. That's certainly a model that works. At the same time, we have to control our own future, and the only thing we can control is to figure out how best to advance hurricane on our own, find out what mining methods, see what that time frame looks like. We'll do the work and put ourselves in a position to do that, given that we can't, again, we can't direct or make others do something on our time scale, but we're always, of course, open to discussions, and so that'll be interesting and more to come on that. But we'll certainly put ourselves in a position to not have to rely on anyone and be able to take it forward. But we're always open to chatting. Current percentage of uranium coming from Russia and Kazakhstan. Yeah, it's a good. I think it's basically Kazakhstan's probably over like 40% at the moment. The Russian material, 20% of the material coming into the United States, I think it is, comes in as EUP from Russia. So that's the uranium UF6 conversion component and enrichment. That's the piece that's really if sanctions take hold, which they haven't, I think most of the industry would say it's surprising that they haven't had sanctions already, but there's companies and utilities that are relying on those supplies, and they've pushed back on having sanctions in place immediately. So there is still material coming from Russia, but it is significant. Like I said, it's right around that 20% level, which is a lot of reliance on that part of the world. If those sanctions come in, at any given time, I think the proposal right now for sanctions is to have it kind of, wean off that supply over a number of years. But I think there's also concerns that if sanctions come in, it's very possible that the Russians would cut off that supply immediately, which is a possibility. And there's a lot of people that believe you can make up that difference from various supply sources. There's others that are concerned that the supply wouldn't be there immediately. So that's one of the challenges with invoking those sanctions immediately, and maybe one of the reasons why it hasn't happened. I think that is really it for questions. I think I'm right at my time slot here. So yeah, if there's nothing else, I just want to thank again OTC Markets. I want to thank everyone that's taken some time to listen to the presentation. Again, the numbers are up there. Always happy to have a chat. Reach out anytime, and yeah, appreciate it.